Hello everybody, I'm Sue Burgess. I work for Leeds City Council and my role is Head of Market Service. And that means that I'm responsible for the Council's market charter and market rights across the district. So anything you see that looks a bit like a store with somebody selling off it, I've probably given them a licence, and if I haven't, they're in trouble. And so that's quite a large operation. We're probably responsible for somewhere in the region of 1,000 small businesses a day, and if you think about the sort of secondary and tertiary impacts of that, it's actually quite a large impact on the economy of Leeds and probably wider as well. So, however, markets are very traditional, and Kirkgate Market is no exception to that. Market stall holders and traders are very dependent on passing trade in a bricks and mortar operation. And just to give you some background on Kirkgate Market itself, if you are not familiar with Leeds and haven't been to Kirkgate Market, do not leave the city without going. It's a fantastic building. It's a Grade 1 listed indoor market. We trade 6 days a week. We have between 190 and 200,000 visitors a week. That goes up at Christmas, to the point where you can hardly move in the aisles. We're in a prime city centre location, near the Corn Exchange, near the sort of high-end Victoria Quarter, independent retailers, so all parts of that kind of independent retail feel in Leeds. We're next to the bus station, which is up the road from the railway station. 75,000 square foot of retail space is nothing compared to Asda and Walmart, but it's pretty big for a market, and we are in fact the biggest covered market in Europe, probably, I say probably in the Carlsberg sense there. And outside as well, we have 200 plus stalls on the open market site, which are trading 6 days a week as well. And as I said, we license other markets around the city too. So we're a pretty big operation by market standards at Kirkgate Market. However, markets are suffering because of their very traditionality. Shopper habits have evolved over the last 6 to 8 years, largely due to recessionary factors, probably more rapidly than at any time in modern retail history. So pre-recession, people were shopping 24/7, of course. They were shopping out of town, online. Convenience was the most important thing, and markets were really, really suffering. We were seeing a real downward spiral. Traditional market traders, of course, used to just pull up the shutter, loads of people come past and buy things. They didn't understand why that didn't work anymore. Come the recession, people went back to basics. Times were scary, people wanted things they were familiar with. And it was about needs, not wants, because money was tight. And value for money became very important. And it became, this is an interesting turn of events, became fashionable to bargain hunt. The sort of yummy mummies of, bought something nice in Aldi or something like that. It became very important. And markets obviously benefited as a result of that. But post-recession, we've got consumer confidence returning, but not to the pre-recession levels. So value for money is still important, but other things have become important too. The need to connect with the purchase point and have a real experience, have something, what I call a takeaway from your experience as well. And so markets have a real opportunity to buy into that consumer trend, but they've got to know how to compete, and they're not very well equipped to do so. So understanding what customers want is more important than ever. Customers are mobile in lots of senses. They're very well informed about what they're buying, time poor, and the outcome of recession is we're not brand loyal anymore. We'll go wherever we get the best bargain. They want their shopping experience to include all of those things that I've listed there. And Kathy talked earlier on about multi-sensory being important to the retail experience. I would suggest that markets are probably your original multi-sensory retail experience. And that's something obviously that we can capitalise on. We have to work out how to do it and how to translate that into other channels other than just simply the face-to-face interaction. So we know from surveys that we do every year and have done for a number of years that there's pent-up demand from potential customers who can't come to shop at the market during opening hours for whatever reason. And the market, by the way, is open till 5:30 in the evening, and then that's it, they all go home. And the foodie revolution means that people really care about the food that they eat. These are some of the things that they've told us really matter to them: freshness, choice and variety, things that are not on the high street or in the supermarkets, provenance, and you'll hear a bit more about this later, supporting local businesses, interaction with the traders, not that kind of soulless, sorry, Asda, Walmart, kind of, you needn't talk to anybody or, yes, I know, I'm saying it. You needn't talk to anybody or make eye contact with anybody all the way through your shopping experience if you don't want to. Well, you can't get away with that in the market. But the nostalgia and the value of the heritage and the tradition of markets. If I had £1 for everybody who said to me, I used to go to Kirkgate Market with my grandma, I'd be quite rich actually, I probably won't be away with the council anymore. And affordability and value for money also very important. So the issues facing markets, well, as I said, they rely on passing trade, and for many of them, they don't understand why that doesn't work now. The opening hours do not fit with modern life. Traders are low-tech. This one became a bit of a challenge, I have to say. Market businesses, this is quite important, have little resource or know-how in terms of how to promote themselves. It will very, very, very low impact on the market in terms of visibility outside of their immediate location. And they're often in town and city centre locations. Of course, that's where we want them to be, but that makes them less accessible than out-of-town shopping parks. And actually, they're not always cheaper than the high street competitor, particularly the big discounters. My traders are fond of saying to me, I can't buy it for what Primark can sell it for. And that's serious. So there have to be other reasons why people are going to make that transaction. So losing market share, missing out on customers who we know are there and want to buy, can't get to them. And the result actually is markets could disappear altogether from our high streets. And this is part of where the government was coming from when they issued this funding round. Innovate UK, used to be known as Technology Strategy Board, issued a competition in 2014, reimagining the high street. And the rationale was to use cutting-edge technology to drive visits to the high street. So our proposal was to develop and test a digitally enabled click and collect facility at Kirkgate Market. And we had 3 key innovations there, and some of which the guys will tell you a bit more about in a minute. So the first one was to use a 3D gaming platform to recreate the market shopping experience. The second one was to order from multiple market traders in an add-to-basket format, like you would do from Tesco or anybody else, with one payment and checkout. Massive, massive technology challenge, that one. And innovation 3 was get market shopping from real traders using an app. Phase 1 of the feasibility was June to November 2014, and we've completed phase 1. We then went on to bid for phase 2, which is the implementation and testing phase. And Kathy and I are waiting with bated breath and some trepidation to see whether we're successful. We'll find out at the end of next week. And we just had the conversation earlier on that we slightly do and we slightly don't because of the size of the challenge, but it'd be a fantastic thing if we do get it. And our click and collect feasibility study ran from June to November of last year. This is where it was really important to us to work with the Retail Institute. We're a council, and we've got a market, but kind of nobody would describe us as cutting edge ever in anything. Risk averse, probably. So we could provide the traders, and we work with 3 large fresh food traders: butcher, fishmonger, and greengrocer. And we do have an existing shop and drop chiller room where you can leave shopping and come get it later, and it's refrigerated and we have to drip for nothing. We had the facilities, obviously we had the asset, and we were geared up to do all the marketing and comms side of it. But the Retail Institute were able to provide us this cutting edge expertise in app and website design and development, which you're going to hear more about in a minute. Crucially, the research, both before in terms of background, but also during, to back up our findings and to feed into the second bid actually as well. Hands-on logistics solutions design and implementation, and the analysis of consumer feedback during the live trial. And what was so important to us actually was we couldn't have done all that ourselves, even though we're a massive organisation. But we didn't expect a university to just roll their sleeves up and be able to get it at the grassroots level. What was this problem? How small it was in terms of each of the individual traders, but how big it was in terms of, you know, that relationship management and transaction management, and the logistics side of it, which I think is probably our biggest nightmare. Oh my goodness, it was ridiculous. You'll see a bit more about it in a minute. And for them to have that kind of professional and credible and independent approach to the research and analysis, but really literally rolling up their sleeves and being there, and Jo at the back, bless her, was down at our live trial, I think every day for the whole of the 4 weeks, keeping us all on track. So they really were very practical and hands-on. So I'm hoping this little film's going to work now, because we had these films made during the feasibility study, and it'll give you a real flavour of how it went. So let's hope it works. This project is about the historic Kirkgate Market coming into the 21st century and the opportunities that this kind of technology can bring to small businesses everywhere.
So like sirloin steak, extra large, 4 for the 10 today. Sirloin steaks, 4 for the 10.
All your bellies, 2 for the pound today. All your bellies, 2 for the pound. 2 quid, mate.
It works so easily, it works so simplistically, and it's just the future really of how to shop, I think.
It's going quite well at the moment. Whatever we need to get these young people and young shoppers shopping in Leeds Market, but still keep the tradition going, you know, we're all for it, as simple as that.
So I found using the app really, really straightforward and really simple and very effective. Anything that helps the markets grow and develop, I was keen to be involved with.
The app is really exciting actually, because what we're doing is combining 3D gaming technology with an online shopping experience. And everybody's used the sort of Amazon, eBay way of shopping, where you can shop from lots of independent retailers at once. So that's all been done before. But what we haven't ever done before is take a unique live shopping environment like a market and recreate it using 3D technology online, so that people can actually go around the market and shop from those independent traders and add to baskets for them to convert.
It arrives to the customer how the trader prepares it, and so it's exactly how they get it in the market. The project was a vision of Burgess from Leeds City Council and Bal Singh at Leeds Beckett University, and they just had the idea of bringing modern technology to market and helping customers out there that finish work outside of the block feel to shop and support the market.
We partnered up with the Retail Institute at Leeds Beckett University to come up with this idea for a omni-channel market. Leeds Beckett University have the technology and the research and expertise into retail trends, and also how to design these really clever apps. And obviously what we have here is a ready-made high street, or literally marketplace. You've got local produce, you've got short supply chains, you've got freshness, you've got affordability, and all of those things we can make sure we get to the 21st century customer.
I really couldn't recommend the app highly enough.
Okay, so over now to Bal and Paul from the Retail Institute, who did all the clever techie stuff.
Thanks, Sue. Hi, my name is Bal Singh, and I'm in the Faculty of Arts, Environment and Technology. I'm senior lecturer there in the School of Computing, Creative Technologies and Engineering. I'm also responsible for co-running our app studio, where we make bespoke apps for research purposes, for prototyping, and this was one of those. It was a great challenge for us, and it was a really exciting opportunity for me. I've been a course leader for games design for a long time, and I always wanted to deploy gaming technology to do something it's not designed to do, to use it for some other purposes. So when this project came up, we jumped to the chance. My colleague Paul is going to talk about the evaluation of product in a minute. I'm going to talk about the technology and how we use the technology to create this app. This is all we were given. We want an app. which could have two routes. If people want to shop, place orders, they could go to a list-based approach. They could browse products in a list-based fashion and order from there. The other option was to visualize in 3D environment. So we needed to create a 3D world, an accurate model of the market where people could explore, go into a 3D world, or even converse with the traders. And by clicking on a trader, it could bring up a stall, their stall, and people then would be able to add products into their basket and then check out. So, because this project was quite unique, we couldn't use any existing technology, so we had to come up with everything from scratch. We had to create the 3D environment, all the interface, even the back end, the server side of it. We had to create all the technology when consumer placed the order, how it got collated, then it got sent to the market, and how it got processed. It was quite a complex project. Project was divided into 3 phases. First was app creation. This is where we contributed. We created the app. Before it went on live field trials, we did lots of internal tests. We were very, very fortunate. We had people with a lot of expertise with user experience design and so on. So we did our internal tests and enhanced the look and the functionality of the app before it went to the field trials. We wanted the world to look as realistic as possible. We didn't want anything synthetic, so we wanted real pictures, real photographs to go on the computer-generated world. So we went into the market, took lots of photographs, recorded live audio from the market to go in the app. So we used those images to put textures on products, on stalls, and so on. We used the architectural map of the market to accurately build the 3D world. We used that as a template, and then we populate the stalls on top of the map. This is how it looked when we were building the app. This is a screenshot from the computer when we were building. The finished app looked something like this. When you launch the app, it gives 2 options, whether to shop, go straight to the shop, or you explore the market. Now, this is a screen captured video, if it works, yes. So the app gives a little bit of tutorial, a little bit of help how to use it when you first launch it. This is how you interact with the app. This is how you add items to the basket. And this is now in explore mode. When you go to a particular trader, you click on the trader, it takes you to the stall. Then here, you got some instructions. If you click on a product, it gives you information about the product. And if you just drag the item to your basket, the item gets added. You can choose the trader by clicking on the trader icon. Once you've added enough items to your basket, then you can go to checkout. And checkout has the facility to select particular delivery time, particular delivery day, and once all that done, you confirm that, then the information gets sent to the server where it's collated, and at midnight all the collated information, including customer ID, trader ID, products they've ordered, all the spreadsheet gets sent to market officials where it's processed for collection for the following day. Now, Paul's going to talk about evaluation, how we evaluated and the results we got from the app.
Right, so my name's Paul Doney. You've seen the videos, you've seen the pictures. I've got no videos or pictures, which is probably the one way to plan things, isn't it, when we've been talking for some time, but that's the way it is. It's interesting listening to so many of the presentations earlier, because there's been a lot of discussion about lengthy research phases and investigations and consumer consultation, and that's really the way some of us would prefer to work. But sometimes we find ourselves in a position where a project is given to us and the brief is given to us, and I'm not saying from the market, this comes from the funders really, and gives us a timescale where we have to operate quickly. So what we were looking at was really a proof of concept for this project. Although Sue said it ran from June to November, once you've done a bit of working out what you're doing and getting on with and deciding on a date where you're going to run some trials, you've got a very short period of time in order to undertake those trials. So our approach you might call, or might informally call, a quick and dirty approach. We had to get something out there. We wanted to do end-to-end testing. That was very important to us, so we had to do that quickly. So the approach we took was, we wanted to get the trials run in October, as you can see. We wanted to do 4 weeks of the trial, so there was a bit of iteration so we could learn along the way. We had to come up with a way to motivate people to take part in the trial and limit the risks at the same time. So we did come up with a very attractive proposal, as a result of which we have 500 applicants to the trial that we launched. That was put out through social media, through standard media, and the sign-up went very quickly. We actually selected 100 people randomly from those that applied. You might have looked at the point already. What we did was we offered people £20 a week to spend in the market through the app. That way we had a very short period of time, we generated the interest very quickly, and we addressed many of the risk factors associated with taking money off people, for which the alternative of taking money off people for the trial, which had all sorts of hurdles in there. So we set ourselves off on this 4-week trial. All the participants really had to do was respond to our surveys each week, so we could collect the data. And what I'm going to go through now is just some of the data. I mean, I'm not going to go through huge amounts of the data, just some of the headlines, I suppose, that we picked up along the way. As you can see, we got 75 responses in the first week. Embedded with our server, what we had was a standardised usability test to test out the usability of the system that people were using. That test suggests that you need 68% to get to the side of it being a usable system. We got 92 in the first week. I'd be very honest, that is very high. So that tells us something. There's 2 messages. It probably does tell us that there's a reasonable level of usability, but it also told us straight away that I think there was a high level of enthusiasm for the system as a whole, for the whole process, and that was feeding back in. But you can pick up some other things, so you see other things that 80% of the trial customers thought they would continue, 87% thought it was convenient, so there's immediately a great deal of positivity. But so, set in that context, the other ones you need to look at and reflect on a little bit. So it is interesting to notice that 50%, 60% of the shoppers like to explore. So that is, compared to the others, that gives us something to think about, particularly when you add in the 48% of users state that shopping on the app is better than a traditional. So, 52 might be the other way. So, it's not a totally clean picture, but we're obviously getting a lot of support from our users for the system as a whole. We need to think about how we structure that, structure the technology. So that was week 1. Following weeks, in pursuit of brevity, I'm not going to go through each week. But what we were able to do, because we had 4 weeks, it was a very tight turnaround, but we were able to collect qualitative comments from users as well, which meant we could actually tweak in places. We did make some tweaks to the apps, we made some tweaks to the logistics of the delivery, etc. So there was some opportunity of sort of being quite agile and improving things as we went along. We did launch another app in week 3, which 78 people downloaded. It didn't make any huge differences, it couldn't do, but it did at least give us a chance to address some of the issues that were arising. And then in the final week, we asked for a more comprehensive questionnaire to be completed. 68 of those, 90% of the trial customers said that they would continue after the trial. So a lot of enthusiasm for the system. I mean, interesting in terms of shopping habits here. The customers we had, and I suppose we would call it a convenience sample. There's no balance in terms of gender, age, etc. They were the 500 that applied, and we chose randomly 100. In the timescale we had, that seemed the best way to go. 71% would use it for their weekly shop, which maybe surprised us. 85% for their top-up shops. We picked up some other information, so it's quite a reasonable portion. We're interested in a drive-by option to increase the convenience. Some interesting feedback in terms of the usage. So we've got, a reasonable proportion of people will pick up their shopping after 5 p.m, which is us anticipating, really. We were looking at people that were working in town, wouldn't normally access the market, so we were looking, picking up new custom. And reinforced really by 75% looking at weekdays. So we are looking at the working population in the city centre here. But there was some interest in the home delivery option of 63%. We also, as you can see on the bottom there, started to explore what are the things you actually want. If this was to go forward, what would you be looking for? And we were only offering meat, fish, and fruit and veg. But we were right in our anticipation. They still came out as the top things that people were looking for. I've only put the next one on there, which was bakery goods. So to go to the next stage, that would be the obvious thing to start adding in, because that was the next one that was highest on people's lists. We asked why people were interested in using the system, and I think this one's interesting in the context of some of the other things we heard from Asda. It kind of pitches, I think this result pitches the market, and it might be what we expected, but it's interesting to see it in a different place than Asda. Because Asda was really all about that one, which is obviously important, but what's become above from our users' perspective is actually this desire to support the market, that there is a desire there to support local businesses and around provenance. Provenance is important to people. And I might be bold and say that actually the traditional users of the market are looking more, or thought to be looking more, at the low price, the value, and the market needs to get a new demographic. So potentially what we're seeing here is the people that are drawn to the trial are coming in and demonstrating to us, yes, they're really interested in using the market, and what's drawing them is the things at the top. I'm particularly, I'll bring it up on the next one. So there are some other things in there as well, but I think it reinforced some of our thinking, but also added to some of the other information we were getting. In terms of wrapping this up then, these are, so if you like, the conclusions, but I think there's some nuances to these conclusions, because we think we demonstrated that we can develop a consumer acceptable app based on a realistic shopping experience. But you saw those numbers at the beginning which suggested, well, actually, maybe traditional e-commerce might have worked well as well. But we've got to, going forward, look for we've got a bit of a balancing act, because if people are looking for supporting local business and provenance, then it's just mundane, drag it to the basket, pick it off a list. That doesn't communicate that to people. So how long will that last with that demographic that want to feel they're part of that market experience, and may want more than just the simple that's offered by Morrison's, Asda, etc. So we have shown that the app was successful, but there are some nuances that we need to deal with. Implementing the digital marketplace and micro businesses as implied, so that's a very, it's said quite quickly, but actually bringing together lots of small businesses, feeding them through one single channel is a big logistic challenge. Getting the people on board is a big logistic challenge, but we went through that and that was successful. Food integrity was a big issue when you're dealing with different traders that are working all independently and having to meet food integrity standards that normally applied at larger organisations, that's a big issue, but that was overcome during the trial. And we showed that there was a demand for this out-of-hours shopping experience. So the customers were consistently supportive, and we've got an encouraging platform to go forward with. This is the big caveat. I'm sure people might have been thinking as we're going forward, because of the sample we used, yes, we are aware of the fact that there may have been a self-selecting sample at play here. But what we think is we've got enough evidence to go forward now and go back to the beginning, if you like, and get all the consumers in the standard market users, different consumer base, to then explore further, because the people we used were so positive as to give us that confidence. So we've gone forward to phase 2 funding. As Sue has suggested, we find out next Friday, don't we, Sue, whether we've got the money to develop this into a commercially viable product, indeed one that is put together such that the architecture is transferable to other markets. So we're not actually just looking to put something together that is bespoke for Kirkgate Market, but look to put something together that can actually be ported to other environments. And that's important for us as a project, but also for the funders, Innovate UK, that are looking for that. I don't know, Sue, you wanted to wrap things up?
Yes, just a couple of final comments really about some of our learning from the council's perspective. In terms of positive outcomes, we were surprised that even a small uplift in turnover, such as the traders experienced from what was actually 400 transactions over a 4-week period, was enough to get them excited. It was enough to start to make a difference to those businesses. And what was also good was, because we'd got 3 of the kind of big players, if you like, in the market involved in it, they became ambassadors, and very quickly other traders were then clamouring for, when are you going to do this bigger and better? And at the next stage, should we be successful next week, we'll be looking to get up to 50 traders online by the end of the 18-month period of development, and an exponential number of customers. We might actually find we have to put a limit on the number of customers during the next phase, just so that we can manage and evaluate the logistics without it growing like Topsy all the time. Because I think, although, as Paul rightly says, it's a self-selecting sample, the survey data that we've had from year on year, people have constantly said, I want to shop at the market, but it's closed when I get out of work. So I think we can take from that there's a much wider excitement about the idea of shopping from a market in this way. Collaborative learning and feedback from between ourselves, but actually with the traders, that was really helpful, and they have come forward and said, we really want to be part of your development of what you do next time round. The public support for this and public interest in it was I think, took us all by surprise. We got 7 minutes on Look North. I mean, that's like, wow, filmed us for about 4 hours to get those 7 minutes, but it was, lots of people heard about it as a result of that, and it really got the public's imagination fired up. So it's slightly a hostage to fortune now, because if we don't get the funding, I might be having to try and find ways to do this anyway. On the downside, earlier on you heard Mark talking about command and control of operation, and he himself was saying, kind of how expensive and difficult and a nightmare it is for Asda to manage a click and collect operation. So 2 things come out of that. First of all, when you've got 50 market traders, which are 50 independent businesses, supporting an operation like this, which you're presenting as one item online, your command and control is nearly zero of what happens, and that's a big challenge for us at the next stage. But also it's been very difficult for us at this point, with the small numbers that we've had, to predict what the break-even point might be in terms of profitability, and kind of what the pricings and fee structures and so on, and how we're going to manage that is something we're really going to have to think about. Food handling, Paul just touched on, is for market trade. If you buy a fish from a market trader, he puts it in a bag. If you're lucky, he'll put it in 2 bags and gives it to you. As soon as it stops being that business customer transaction, there's all sorts of other wrapping and packaging requirements, allergen information, weight, origin, all of those things come into play. Market traders are not used to that at all. And traders needing to understand the need to comply with the sort of strict deadlines during the trial was a bit of a challenge, and that's something which will be a challenge going forward as more come on board. But I'm confident that it'll be something that they're so keen on doing that they'll sort of behave themselves, because they know that if they don't, they'll be off and the next butcher will come on instead, and you know, so hopefully it'll self-police from that point of view. But I think, you know, as I hope we've conveyed to you, this was both an enormously challenging and stressful experience for both institutions, but also an enormously rewarding learning experience for both institutions, and extrapolated for the wider market, as Paul mentioned. This isn't just about Kirkgate Market. We have, you know, one of the biggest markets, so it was a good way to trial something like this. But the implications for collaborations of small groups of independents anywhere, which actually don't have to be geographically co-located, they could be virtually co-located. You know, there's all sorts of benefits and implications for this kind of operation and technology if we can get it right. So, yeah, if Asda's finding it challenging, well, we found it pretty challenging too, but I think we've got some unique things to offer to customers. And I actually think that whereas we're seeing the big four struggling to find new ways to buy into what customers want, I don't think we've got that problem. We've got what the customers want, we've just got to find a way to get it to them online. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you. So, any final questions for Paul, Bal or Sue?
Sorry,
Of course, Mike.
One thing is, I mean, maybe I'm just getting older, but my experience at market is the smell and being able to taste things and go around and different, you know, look at different things. And so, for me, it gives you the experience to go around the market. It's like the shop. I mean, what's sprung to my mind is, why don't you just change the opening hours of the market and make it 12 till 8? I just wondered if that was ever considered in the thought process, because if it's a lot of it is people can't get there because of work and it shuts at 5:30 and most people are still working at 5:30, then it seemed to me that a simple thing was just change the opening hours. Or was that?
It would be. That would be a lovely solution.
Yeah.
However, nature of market businesses and many small independent businesses is that they're sole traders or family operations, and it's actually for them to make that leap to being open those extra hours is risky and costly for them. And
I wasn't thinking extra hours. I think just open the market at 12 at noon.
Yeah.
Come in at 9.
Well, I guess they would say, you know, like the greengrocers would say, well, all my business is in the morning, and the fishmongers would say, well, it's all at lunchtime, and then somebody at the cafes would say it's at tea time. And if you were just selling one thing, that would probably work. I think as time goes on, and we're doing a multi-million-pound redevelopment of Kirkgate Market at the moment to bring it, you know, up to sort of 21st century retail expectations whilst retaining that market essence. I think over a period of time they may gradually creep towards being open longer, but at the moment it's not something which we could achieve wholesale, and you wouldn't want to be in a market where only 4 of the businesses were open and the other 231 were shut. You know, that's not an experience that any customer wants. So it's really down to kind of micro business issues and costings, and this is why we think this has replicability for small independents as well, because they've got exactly the same issues. And if they could have a click and collect point, which might be at Kirkgate Market or it might be at some other central place, using this technology, then they can service their customers when they can't be open. And really we see where this is where the benefits will be.
So Neil?
Just wondering, if you had like 3 or 4 traders selling the same stuff, would the traders be willing to put in resources and share the revenues and profits just to the online sales?
Would they be willing to do it just for the online?
Just for the online sales.
Well, I think what they would probably want to do is all appear in the online shopping portal, so that customers could choose between them. What it would engender is quite fierce competition, I think, which would be no bad thing. And that would, of course, replicate what you would get in a normal market, because whereas if you go to Tesco, you've only got to meet the Tesco sells. If you go to the Kirkgate Market app, you've got, Malcolm Michaels and Phil Bennett's and, whoever, and they're all in strict competition. market traders pooling resources is a bit like, when I used to work for economic development in North Yorkshire, we used to have this joke that if you wanted to get 3 farmers together, you'd have to shoot one of them and then the other 2 would come to the funeral. It's a bit like that with market traders. You know, over my dead body will I collaborate with any of my competitors. So, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.